that our herds have. We have population objectives that are a big reason why we're between a rock and a hard place. And along with that, we have a bull ratio. Some people think it's a guideline. Some think it's an absolute. Some think it's a target. And we have built perceptions and thoughts that how should we manage bulls in the state of Nevada, as a trophy hunt or as an opportunity hunt. We've never really addressed it, but the only document that we do have is the statewide management plan, and that bull ratio is set, and quite frankly, we haven't been complying with it. And this situation area 23 would go against it, even worse, I think, in trying to increase the bull ratios, increase the number of bulls. So I think the bigger picture should be, how do we and how should we be managing bulls in the state of Nevada with the limitations that we have on the landscape, in the social arena, and the expectations of our hunters. Because yeah, you could have White Pine County come up today and say, yeah, we're not all that happy either. We've been frustrated. We're not seeing our expectations met. I think 23 is probably one of the most severe ones in terms of those expectations not being met. But we have that plan, and I want to remind everyone that maybe we need to go back and do more following of it.
All right, before we get back to Mr. Lent, do we have any new, and then we'll come back. Mr. Howell? Hasn't spoken.
Corey, you're on board with Mike's assessment that 231 would be the place to start? You're on board
Yes, sir.
with that? Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Vogler, and we'll have Mr. Lent. Commissioner Vogler.
Corey, in 113,
Give you the last
which
word.
the landowner, the people who are getting landowner tags in that unit, obviously the value of those have all slipped just because of the economy. The other thing that I see in that unit, moving livestock, is that we're seeing elk in places that we used to only see antelope. There's satellite bull groups that are going further out and further away, because with those bulls are being shot at with some sort of a weapon from about August on. And where it used to, you'd run into a bachelor group of 8 or 10 bulls and they'd all stop and look at you. And now they hear a motor or a snap of a twig. Are some of those bigger, more mature bulls, by the time they're 7, 8, 10 years old, they've had everything in the world but a rock thrown at them? I mean, yeah, pistols. I mean, you name it. So the first movement, they're gone. Could that be part of the situation, that the mature bulls are just staying in the trees thicker and like that?
It definitely is. And we discussed this very thing. I mean, there's in 231, other units, 22, there's a sea of pinyon juniper that you can't imagine. And yeah, I do believe, especially on years where you don't have 6 or 8 inches of snow hit and cover up a lot of the feed that's in those trees, on the north sides especially, they can live in there, and they do. Trust me, some of the places that we encounter a lot and look at a lot are just those thick areas like that. So that is a dynamic. Don't get me wrong, that is a small piece of the puzzle.
The other question I have is that what would the folks down there, or the people that have the most knowledge of your unit down there, you have a limited resource of so much feed. What about increasing the number of cows and antlerless? Is that a viable option? I mean, if you got 100 cows, 50 of them are going to have heifer calves, females.
We discussed that very item, especially yesterday. That is, and we aggressively hunt the cows in that unit. We talk about snap of a twig. Those cows get hunted from August 1st to the 1st of January. Hard, and they are very.
Is that going to push them back into Utah, though?
I don't think the cows as much as the bulls. I think the bulls are a lot more transient, just like you said, especially the young bachelor groups.
Everybody's talking
You know,
about
we'll
that.
discuss this later. We're looking at another unit down there for elk hunting opportunity, just because of that type of expansion. So, yeah, they fluctuate, but I don't think as much as the bulls.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Lent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we got to start thinking some of these times, we got to think outside the box. And I think biology is driving this new model. That's what starts it. I mean, and, you know, as far as Mike Cox's remarks there, you know, I don't know, as I recall in the past, quality in the past surveys that we've done is what the majority of Nevada hunters want. If you have any doubt about it, do another survey. But I think that, you know, we can ask Don Sefton on this, and I think Commissioner Cavan will elaborate on this. The year that we had those magnificent 7 bulls, we had 7 huge bulls, and we put them on the record, we had tremendous increase in applications. And so I think quality does drive, if you're looking at money or anything else, and I think that's what the majority of hunters want. And that's what the survey showed. And if you have any doubt, resurvey them when you do the hunter return card or something. But anyway, that's my comments.
All right, need to hit public comment on this item.
Could I just want to just
Oh,
point
go ahead,
out a
Corey.
certain thing. Just a couple of things to keep in mind. I do want everyone to realize this. We're looking at 1 unit right now for a test unit. We're looking at very conservative quotas to begin with. You know, we talk about a split hunt in that unit. This year would be the first year of that split hunt. You know, it can conceivably be done to where we split the hunt, to where the trophy hunt's the first hunt and the management bull hunt's the second hunt. And we're looking at, you know, 20, 30 tags. It's a pretty small amount of tags, and figure a success rate off that. You know, it's a pretty minute harvest, I think, in the overall scheme of things. The other thing is, just like Chairman Lentz said, you know, you're going to have a certain amount of hunters that are going to shoot a 400 bull whether they find one or not. They're not going to kill anything else. There's always going to be, it's just percentages, just like anything else. There's always going to be the hunters that, oh yeah, I'm going to hunt quality, I'm going to hunt trophy for a week, but then I'm going to hunt whatever or kill whatever I see. Then there's always going to be the guys that are going to shoot the first thing. And that's just a law of averages. So, you know, I think we can factor all that in as just a piece of the pie. And, you know, I will be the first one to stand up in front of this commission in 10 years if this doesn't work and say, I apologize, I'm sorry, we're wrong. And let's figure out how to move forward and do it right. So that's just my comments. Thanks. I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody's help.
Thanks for all your work on it, Mr. Birdie. And then we had Mr. Yannick.
I have a comment that's not pro or con on this. It's just a hunter's perspective in that in this area, and hunted several hunts in this area for bull elk. As Corey mentioned, people pass up broken tine bulls all the time. So a lot of people see a 350 class bull and notice that there's another probably 18 to 20 inches knocked off it, and they don't shoot that bull. So that bull still breeds, and his function in life is still there. However, it's just the hunter's choice at that. So I think that is one option in that case. And that's a time of year. So if I think people would see a lot larger bulls if they were hunt before the rut or at the rut. But I'm not suggesting a run hunt either. It's just a very, I've seen a lot of guys pass up a lot of 350 class bulls that are broken. And I think that's a major key in it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with this idea of having study groups or study units. And like Corey said, 10 years from now, we might know if we're right or wrong.
Thank you, Mr. Yannick. And then Mr. Wellington.
Giliana Carson Advisory Board. When we discussed this, we kind of picked on Lincoln County also as a great proving grounds. And I think the idea of a multi-year study to see what a management plan would accomplish. I think there's too many variables that we all know happen from year to year, weather, fire, you know, what's happening across the border, to just come out and say this plan is going to work for everybody without doing a little bit of research with it. And Commissioner Lentz comments regarding, possibly discussing some of this with our friends over in Utah can't hurt. I mean, they need to understand the dynamics that go into play when they do something and how it would affect hunters in this state. Because we've seen from the data that was reported this morning that when they change some of their ground rules, that can affect what happens and what's available for our hunters in this state. So I think it bears, and maybe this isn't the right year to go forth with some new regulations in light of what the governor has indicated. And maybe if we study this for a couple of years and try this again, next year, to the weather, as far as acceptance of new regulations may change. There's political issues as well as hunting dynamics to consider in a situation like this. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Wellington.
For the record, Ken Wellington, Elko County. The first part of this, we tabled this because we were curious and we're kind of, I guess, where we want to see what's going to happen out of this thing, because we're one of the biggest affected in our county right now. But we table it. So speaking on my own, not the board approval, this is just for me. I would invite that we do this meeting that Mr. Lynn's talking about, but maybe do it in Elko County, which is kind of a central point, and invite Idaho also, because our issues, as you'll hear when the season settings come here, you're going to hear about the populations of the elk up in the 061-071 area. And those, I mean, we've doubled in 1 year, and now it's, I mean, we saw phenomenal elk this year. We have property, my family has property up in the 061-071 area, and we have seen a lot of animals up there. And so I'm curious, because when the season starts for elk up there, we have movement of elk into the Idaho because there's no season at that time. And I know Larry and them were working with it. Our biologists were trying to work something in conjunction. But I would also ask you to invite the Idaho into this meeting that you're going to be doing, at least try to get everybody together, maybe a central location. And for cost reasons, maybe they got more money than we do, but maybe we can try to do it in Elko or something, somewhere in between. And I just standing here as a hunter, I kind of support this, Mike and Corey's ideas of experiment in an area we'd like to see. We don't want our area messed up. Let them do theirs first and see how bad they ruin it. But anyway, thank you.
All right, thanks. Any further public comment? Okay, looks like we got one over there, and then back.
Ray Sawyer, White Pine County Advisory Board. We addressed this issue in our meeting. We didn't realize it was just for a Lincoln County issue. At the point when we addressed it, we disagreed with it. If Lincoln County wants to try something like this, our board would be in support of it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Paul Harris, just speaking on behalf of myself, and just in regards to Commissioner Lent's comments, I agree, a great idea to speak with Utah and see if we can't get something going. And I have a pile of elk preference points. I know 23. I will not be putting in a 23. I'll be putting in for probably preference points again. But I mean, I know what the bull herd quality is there. I had a bunch of people who hunted there, and this past year that they couldn't find a quality bull. So I agree with Corey's proposal. I think we ought to try it.
Excellent. Public comment for the public comment. Seeing none, we'll close public hearing. Bring it back, Commission. Mr. Lent.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I know I've hunted 231 probably for the last 5-6 years every year, and this last year we probably passed up 40 to 50 bulls that were all broken. Nice bulls. Some had one horn on one side. Saw one monster bull that was perfect shape. When he walked, the main beam hit the back of his butt, but couldn't get him. So there are some nice bulls in there, but there's a lot of broken ones. And so I know what the problem is. Like Mr. Taberti said, that people are passing. There's big ones in there, and they do breed, but it might be a timing of the season too to help. But I think Idaho did that on the wolf problem. They got together, a couple commissioners met with the other states, and they got their wolf issue down and got to an agreement, and they brought it back to their individual commissions, and it worked really good on the wolf issue, so I thought that it would work good on the elk issue and some common issues. And I do agree, Idaho should be brought into it with Elko County because they border and have some problems in common with us. Thank you.
All right, anybody else in the commission? You know, I mean, why I see it, regardless of, I mean, we have a lot of cab support on the item. We should at least try to bring it forward. I mean, as I've already said, you know, the biology, we could almost discuss it later. It looks like it's sufficient to me, but I'm looking at for a motion here today to, we want to bring this forward on a future commission agenda. We'll see if we'll throw it out as an action item. We'll see if we get, if it's allowed under the rules. If not, we'll just have it as an action item and be like our other one and oops. I mean, you want to try it? Want to not try it? Want to throw it off for another year?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
I'm ready to make a motion, but I'm probably going to need a lot of help with it.
Okay, go ahead.
I think that we should go ahead and start the ball rolling. We got to go through the legislature again. There's no time like the present to start and see what how everybody feels about it. But I think we ought to try this as staff recommended, and Corey's all is ready to go along with it also for 231. We should try it.
So, motion.
My motion is to
draft a regulation to.
draft a regulation to have the management to hunt in 231.
Well, we'd have to do it non-area specific.
I beg your pardon?
We'd have to do it not as an area specific. Draft regulation for a management bull elk hunt.
It's
Simple
it's
as
really a
that?
two-part issue, like you pointed out, Mr. Chairman. First of all, you need to create the management bull criteria in regulation. Then you choose to apply it to a particular zone or suite of zones or statewide.
So if you had a motion, it'd be to management bull elk hunt, and then we'll see where that flies. If we can't get that, then what's the point of talking about units?
That's my motion, to start a management bull elk hunt.
And bring that on a future, okay. Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded to request that staff draw up regulations for a management bull elk hunt. Does everybody understand the motion? Further discussion on the we have further discussion. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could I offer an amendment or a caveat that we request approval from the governor's office to expend the staff time and whatnot to move forward? I don't think we want to, I mean, the order is no new regulations, so I don't think we should be proposing new regulations without securing that permission. Otherwise, we're just wasting time if we don't have the permission to move forward.
All right.
I think we could do it ex post facto. I don't think we have to ask first. I think we can go ahead with the caveat that we ask and see if it's acceptable.
During the process. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Pearl.
Clarify the record, there is no legislative action that's necessary. It's strictly a NAC issue. I would disagree with Tom's assessment there. I don't think we should be asking the governor every time we have a different idea of what should go on the agenda. The agenda obviously will be presented to the governor's office each and every month, if I understand what the situation is. He'll make the decision at that point in time. If we have a concern about it, we can ask for a meeting with him relative to that concern.
All right. So was that a motion for an amendment, or that was just a caveat? I'm trying, Just trying to see if, what, to amend the motion. To amend the motion
I'd like
in
to
what way?
To, if we move forward, that we ask the governor if we should, if it's acceptable to move forward with a new regulation under his new executive order.
Okay, and do we have a second? Okay. Question on that, just for my clarifications, at what point would we be intending to do that?
Well, I could certainly do that as first order of business next week and send an email with the motion for what this regulation would be and ask for.
Wouldn't we have to draw up some, I mean, at least a basic outline of what it is first? Because we don't have a basic outline, we're just saying, hey, you know, management bullet. What's that mean?
Well, I was going to ask for clarification on the motion, because what I heard from Mr. Howell was have a management bull hunt. That's different than putting together NAC requirements for a management bull. What is a management bull? Is it 5 points on the side, points 3 inches or less, or 3 inches or greater, or what? I mean, we need to come up with the criteria, what a management bull is that we could actually think that we can enforce, and that would get at what the public's concern is. Kill those raghorns. Right, we would do that. So if that's what the motion is,
Bring us back something, and of course we'd hash it out and change it 40 ways and get input from everybody in the world, and then we'll end up with something.
I do think it would be interesting to send that forward, just as I've described it. This is what the Commission's proposing to put on the agenda, to get a read from the General Counsel to find out what they're really thinking of. Whether they're trying to reduce work within agencies. This is supposed to cover a full gamut. So I would learn something as well from sending this forward. But
so either way, it's going to forward. Anyways, we have a motion and a second to amend the motion that this goes forward. That this goes to the. I'm trying to get the point. That this goes to the governor's office. When? It's sometime before it was put on the agenda. With it, before we expend, I mean, obviously you have to expend some staff time to get this going, but an excess of staff time.
well, I think what Commissioner
I'm just trying to get the amendment in wording, you know?
Cavan's talking about is that what I would do is send an email to General Counsel, say this is what the Commission is planning to do, what's your take on it? And if he says not a problem, then we assign staff to actually develop the regulation to bring forward at the next Commission meeting. If they say no, what don't you understand about no new regulations, then we'll get Mike Cox focused on tag quotas and all the other stuff that's going on.
I'm just kind of worried about, Suzanne, for the minutes, the exact amendments. If we can get some exact, what do you got? The second was Commissioner Wallace for the amendment. So what do we have for, maybe we could read that back, what you have, or for the amendment, just so we're all clear?
Commissioner Cavan asked to amend that to request approval from the governor's office to expend staff time moving forward. As order is, governor's order is no new regulation. He does not believe we should impose new regulation without securing that permission.
Okay, that was the amendment. Does everybody understand the amendment to the motion? Mr. Lent, question on the amendment.
I have a question on the amendment. Maybe we can ask seems to have an input. What would Commissioner Macbeth think about a new regulation? Because you think the governor would approve it, or because you talked about no new regulations? And
I guess the way I look at it is that a regulation that is dealing with our seasons and quotas shouldn't be a problem, because we already know that the base commission general regulations that do seasons are already exempted. And so this, in my mind, seems to be a subset of that. And so I would struggle with the governor not having a problem with it.
All right, Mr. Pearl, discussion on the amendment to the motion. Try to stick with the amendment.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I disagree with that. I think that in the amended order from the governor's office, that the section that Dr. Lent brought up yesterday is apropos for this with regard to regulations of a commission in the ongoing effort to do their job. So I will be voting no on that amendment.
Okay, on the amendment.
I too will be voting no on that, just for the fact that there are 3 branches of government, and are we going to have the governor's council to make all of our decisions here? Or, I mean, why were we even set up? The legislature also has some input. Even though it is a cabinet level position, there are, you know, I mean, this is beyond the scope of their reach, I think. This is a regulation. This is not a new regulation. This is just tweaking what we have. I will vote against the amendment.
All right. Everybody's gathered the amendment. All right. All in favor of the amendment, signify by raising your hand, please. Okay. We have 3. We have Commissioner Cavan, Commissioner Wallace, Commissioner Macbeth that voted in favor of the amendment. All opposed? We have the other 5, Suzanne. All right. Motion on the amendment fails 3 to 5. We'll go back to the main motion, which was to bring forward a management bull elk hunt to the commission, or before the commission, have staff bring it forward to the commission at next meeting for action. Yes, go ahead.
Just a point of clarification then, if we do vote to allow this to go forward, as a general proposition that the process is to take our agenda to council and then it'll get reviewed. Okay, so with that check in place, I think I can vote for this, for this particular item without, running afoul of, and the way I'm looking at it is we got a specific letter from the governor on a single regulation, and that's where that one ends. And so on a go-forward basis, if that agenda is going to be checked by the governor and he thinks that something is offensive to the delegation order, the order from the governor, then we'll know that.
Correct. The process, they've asked me to send the draft agenda, which we've got some time between the draft and the final, to the general counsel. They review it. I don't know what the time frame is, but he was, within a week, he sent it back. I told him what the time frame was. We had to turn the draft to the final, and then he sent an email back, which then I forwarded through Rich Haskins. Excuse me? That's under my understanding.
All right, and so my intention therefore would be, this gets approved, we'll put it on the next agenda, it'll come back like the other one. Hey, look, this is what we're told. Now you do what you want. I mean, that way it's an open public forum. Hey, look, we can't do it. This is our reason. Next item, business. So, and we might end up doing a lot of that over the year. Okay, everybody understand the motion? All in favor of the motion, please signify by stating aye. All opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Yes. No abstentions? No abstentions. Okay. Yes.
I have a question. When you send that agenda, draft agenda forward to them, do you include the backup documentation that's available at the time? And the reason I say that is, obviously, the general counsel doesn't have access to the information that we have. And to make a decision based upon simply an item on a piece of paper without trying to understand why the reasoning, to me, that's a problem. And that's the basis upon which I think, as I understand it from the newspapers, the governor has agreed to meet with the chairman and me relative to our question on on the heritage tag. So my question to you, Mr. Mayor, is do you forward to them the information relative to the agenda, including any backup documentation?
Well, the way it worked is I sent the draft agenda. They approved a bunch of them right off the bat. If you notice that 99% of the things were approved. They wanted backup information on the heritage. I sent what we had. So it's those that they have questions about that they want additional information. So I would suspect if, something like this, they would ask for backup if they had questions. Now, I'll tell you that given that they approved to have this on the agenda, that they're already looking at this as part and parcel to, tag quotas, season setting, those kinds of things. I mean, that's my gut, but I don't know. I don't get into a discourse with them over the thing.
It just seems to me,
boss.
given the time frame, Mr. Chairman, that you have in order between having to submit it, that's another level of concern that we have, is to make sure that General Counsel is happy that that it has to be forwarded early enough to get back so we can finalize the draft, that in order to cut down on some of the time, all of the backup documentation should be set at the time that it is submitted.
This is I'm glad you made this point. We can't really drag out these draft agendas to final. We need to really move forward as quickly as we can. And so I think you're absolutely right. We have drug this out at times where now we're running up against a deadline. The DAGs don't have a chance to look at it. I mean, we're getting complaints from the cabs, on and on. So I think it behooves us to jump right on this. We will certainly do that. So there's time built into the process.
All right. We had a brief comment down at this side of the table, and we'll move on.
I would just request that the director point out to counsel for the governor that this particular item that is going to be on the new agenda is a follow-up item to the agenda item that they had already approved. Just make sure that they understand that it's a continuum as to this particular issue that we're dealing with.
Yeah, will do.
All right. Seeing no further motions on the issue, we'll move on to item number 21, Nevada Waterfowl Hunt Zone and Swan Hunt Area Changes. Game Division Staff Biologist Russell Wolstenhume. Welcome. Tell us all about the critters. What do we have here?
There's support material for this. There's a couple of different things that is before the commission today. The first one is, I'm not sure what order you got them in, so I believe the first one is changes to the Swan Hunt area. Is that correct in your support material? Or, no, it's the hunt zones. Okay.
Hunt zone.
Yeah, okay, so there's, we sent out 4 proposals for either no change or various different options for changes to the waterfowl hunt zones for the state. 2011 is the year when under the federal framework we're allowed to make changes, and there's been requests from primarily, initially it was primarily from Elko and White Pine County to create a new hunt zone over there. Basically what a hunt zone is going to do is allow that portion of the state that would be in a new hunt zone to establish their own hunt seasons. That portion of the state, we get freeze up frequently mid-season. If they were allowed to set their own season, the framework would allow for them to start, like for example, this year they could have started as much as 2 weeks earlier than what has been the northern zone for the hunt zone for the state, the rest of the state zone. Just allow them more opportunity to hunt waterfowl over there.
Excellent. We have any questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, Russell, you gave us 4 options here, but I don't know what they're based on. Is this based on rotation of earth, weather? You know, I don't know if Eureka, Lander, Elko, and White Pine all want to go into one, or if just Elko and White Pine and all the rest, we got 3 zones, and just Lincoln and Clark, and then you got one with just Clark.
Originally, the current zone is hunt zones, or Clark and Lincoln County are one zone, and the rest of the state's the rest of it. So the 3 proposals, the first one, I'm not sure, you got the copies, I tried to get the color so that it was clear where the zones were. The proposal 1 is what's our current eastern region, which would be Elko, White Pine, Eureka, and Lander counties, in case your maps aren't clear. Alternative, so there's some color ones we could pass around. Alternative 2 would be just Elko and White Pine County. And proposal 3, alternative 3 would be Elko, Eureka, Lander, White Pine, Nye, and Lincoln County. The reason why the difference is, like I said, originally when this came up, it was Elko and White Pine County that were asking for the new zone, was the first ones to come in. I've sent this out. You guys have seen informational items and past commission meetings on this. Most of the cabs have seen, this is the 3rd time they've seen this information come by. I was trying really hard to get information back from a lot of the counties on what direction did they want me to go with the proposal. And I didn't get a lot of that feedback back from counties. Therefore, I had to stick with the 3 proposals and hope that as an action item, we'd get more input on what the counties wanted and direction from the commission on which way we wanted to go. The Elko and White Pine were the original ones that asked for it, and that's why that proposal came up. Then talking with waterfowl hunters in that portion of the state, I talked to the biologist out of Eureka and Lander counties and asked them, what are their waterfowl hunters doing? Where are they hunting? Do they tend to hunt? Do they go towards Churchill and Pershing counties? Do they hunt in their own counties? Do they come back towards Elko and White Pine? And essentially, the feedback I got is the handful of hunters in those areas, waterfowl hunters in those areas, that they had enough information from to make that call, had said that they hunt along the river some. There's a little bit of hunting that goes on in Pine Valley, but they felt like, the biologists felt like that for the most part, if it was just part of what's NDOW's eastern region, it made some sense there, and that proposal 2 came through because of that. That's NDOW's eastern region. And then alternative 3, with further discussion and just the idea behind this is to provide opportunity to waterfowl hunters. Our waterfowl hunters in the state have been dwindling over the last 30 years. The number of hunters, we went from a peak in the late 70s, early 80s of almost 18,000 waterfowl hunters in the state, and we're down to fewer than 5,000 licensed waterfowl hunters in the state. And so we're just looking for ways to create opportunity. The more opportunity that exists for hunters, the more participation that we hope we get, and hopefully we can recruit some new hunters. With that in mind, we went with alternative 3 that includes Lincoln and Nye County, and what I think can happen there is that presents an opportunity for waterfowl hunters out of Lincoln County, in particular youth hunters, with the closeness of those 2 zones side by side there. It would allow youth hunters to hunt in the northern hunt zone, that new northeast zone, on the youth hunt day, which if it goes in line with what's been the northern state hunt zone, the youth day is before the waterfowl hunt. And the Lincoln and Clark County Youth Day is at the end of the season, after the regular waterfowl season. So having those 2 counties side by side there would allow youth hunters to go out in Lincoln County, if it was in this new hunt zone, and hunt before the season, and also the opportunity to hunt after the season, and essentially give them 2 youth days in that part of the state. Plus, the more of the state that's involved in this, it allows waterfowl hunters from anywhere in the state the opportunity to hopefully get to a different spot in the state and enjoy there would be, if the new northeast zone and the northwest zone and the Clark County zone all had different openers, it would present an opportunity for 3 openers across the state. And as waterfowl hunters are dwindling, like I said, anything that creates opportunity, we can get more hunters in the field, provide more opportunity. We're hoping that it would, to add new hunters to our hunting population.
All right, one thing in our support material, I know alternative 2, I think there was a misprint there on that on the first page, or at least the version I got said new hunt zone including Elko and Eureka counties as Elko and White Pine, as shown by all your drawings and the other stuff. I might have had a slight misprint just for edification.
On that alternative, the alternative 1, alternative 2, the current zone is Lincoln and Clark County. So,
Alternative 2 is new hunt zone that includes Elko and White Pine, right?
yeah.
I just, because it said your Elko and Eureka on, I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was, continuing here, when this was first brought up, by Elko, because it was weather-related, because of weather, everything's frozen over and they lose a lot of the hunt. And I don't think we have the weather-related in Lander and Eureka like they do there. If you want to put, if that's alternative 2, and if you wanted to put, Lander and Eureka, if they wanted it, like in alternative 1, that'd be okay. But I know Clark, the weather-wise, I look at the weather, and Lincoln and Clark are similar, I think, and so they should be in the same zone. But as far as I can see, based on the weather, the original one was alternative 2, it's just Elko and White Pine, and alternative 3 adds Eureka and Lander. Either one of those two seems to make sense from what you originally was trying to do to me. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to get public comment on this item, and then we'll get back. And first thing of public comment is I did get a letter from a Jeff McKay from Ruby Valley, Nevada, who was in favor of alternative number 1, which includes counties of Elko, White Pine, Eureka, and Lander. That was one specifically I'd had. There was some input from Elko. Okay, other public comment. Well, we should. Do you want something before public comment? Well, go ahead. As part of public comment, go ahead.
Russell, and I'm hoping that Paul Harris from Clark County will get up, because you hunt in Pahranagat Valley, right?
I hunted Pahranagat and I also hunted.
All right, we'll have him talk here in a second.
Okay, but I think, because I know that we got some input from some of the Southern Nevada people saying that they wanted alternative 3. But I know a lot of people who hunt in Keep Pittman and in the Pahranagat Valley, and it's right on the southern edge of Lincoln County, on the south part of it, and that is really more like Clark County. And we've had this, Clark and Lincoln together, and it seems to have worked good. And I don't want to give it up just because of a youth, a potential for a little bit of a benefit for youth. And when I really look at the youth issue, either alternative 1 or alternative 2, because we have Nye County in the first zone, actually gives, the youth the ability to go up to White Pine County, the very southern end of White Pine County, for our new project that we have on the 3C Ranch, and also in Sunnyside in Nye County. So, I mean, they literally could have 3 different days that they could hunt. And I don't know if there's a lot of duck hunting that goes on, waterfowl hunting that goes on in the northern end of Lincoln County. I'm not aware of it. And so I'm really leaning towards along the lines of what Commissioner Lent mentioned, that keeping Lincoln and Clark together. But I really would like to hear about that from from some of the people from the south. And so I'm kind of leaning towards either 1 or 2, giving Lander and Eureka a decision to be in whatever zone they want to be in.
All right, public comment. Let's go. Elko, that's you. Then Mr. Dixon, and then we'll have Eureka coming up here.
Thank you very much. For the record, Ken Wellington, Elko County. We were the ones that brought it to you in August at the Elko meeting 2 years ago, and it came from Jeff Mackey, the letter that was read into the record there. He's the one that brought it to our board to bring it forward. And I'm not sure if some of the other counties understand, but this would mean that their season's going to end earlier in those areas. And for what happens with us in Elko County, as I've mentioned at that August meeting, some of the commissioners weren't there then, we are taken out of the ball game because come December, we're froze over, and we have no hunter opportunity for the ducks in that area. So we wanted to give the sportsmen an extra couple weeks at the beginning of the season to do that. But some of these other counties that are not having those issues where it's freezing over, you're going to be taken out of the ball game 2 weeks earlier, and that's where we go from Elko to go hunt in those areas. So with that, our board went with Mr. Mackey, who showed up to our meeting. He requested alternative 1, alternative 2, then alternative 3 was his recommendation. So we stood with him, who was the author of this to begin with. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. All right, with Mr. Dixon, then Mr. Bliss. I won't lose you back there, Gil.
For the record, Paul Dixon, Chairman, Clark County. This is one of the agenda items that I discussed earlier when we discussed cab budget overall, that having a restricted 3-hour meeting when we dealt with the top issues that you dealt with yesterday. Most of our meeting time was consumed because we had a lot of people who wanted to speak against horses and bears. What I will say is I had personal correspondence, so I'm speaking now as not as the chairman of Clark County, but, well, I mean, not in that role as a board thing. And the 3 pieces of correspondence I got based on input from from Russell, is that people were in general supporting the Zone 3 option, although when listening to Commissioner Macbeth this morning, I would say that the Zone 2 option, or the option 2, seemed to be actually even better than that when you really look at it carefully. And since we didn't have time to do cab discussion on it, we really didn't get to federal all these ideas out at our cab meeting. So I asked some of our cab members to get up and give personal interactions to this besides what Mr. Macbeth has. Thank you.
You have Mr. Bliss, then Mr. Yannick.
For the record, Chad Bliss, Eureka County. The waterfowl hunters that were at our meeting, they chose option number 3. I don't hunt it, waterfowl much, so we just went with what they wanted to do. Okay.
For the record, Gil Yannick, Carson Advisory Board. When our board discussed this, it started several years ago, as was mentioned, and we thought it was a great idea because of the weather situation in Elko County. It seems to have grown since then, and upon discussion at our most recent meeting, we ranked the way we felt it ought to go was either option 1 or option 2. We did not consider option 3.
Thank you. Mr. Harris.
Paul Harris, Clark County Cab. We have, because of the proximity to the management area, we have gone over to Overton, over to management area. We've had meetings there, very vocal and very busy meetings. Lots of waterfowl hunters over there, and we had talked about this, and they had kind of expressed, they had liked number 3, but we never really had this option of number 2, and I would agree with the commissioners that, it's going to give them an option to, and especially with the youth hunters, to hunt with this alternative 2. It gives them more options, and they can go up into White Pine and hunt the new area up there, and they've already got pretty close proximity to 3 alternatives for hunting. And unfortunately, we didn't get to it, and unfortunately, we don't have anybody from the Overton Wildlife Management Area or anyone who lives over there that's pretty vocal that are hunters here to speak today. But I would say number 2 is a great alternative for all those hunters.
All right. Come on down.
Dane Bradfield, Lincoln County Advisory Board. To go along with Mr. Macbeth's statements, there is not a lot of waterfowl hunting in northern Lincoln County. Most of the water resources up there are in state parks, and so there's very limited waterfowlers up there. Most of the waterfowl hunting is in southern Lincoln County, which goes along very much with the climate in Clark County, and so we would agree to keep Lincoln County in with the Clark County plans, and that's how we would go with that. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Anybody else? Come on up.
Again, Ray Sawyer, White Pine County Advisory Board. We voted to go with option number 1 on this. We just felt that was the best option for our situation.
Excellent, thank you. Go ahead. All right, we'll close public hearing on this matter, bring it back to the commission. I'm looking at it here. I like option 1. Actually, I like all of them better than the current existing one. That seems fairly clear. If you had to ask me, I'd say number one. I missed the meeting where you said number three. I mean, it's one of those things. Number two would be, I don't think the end of the world. Just, climatologically, you could probably say number one would be my number one, just kind of throwing out there. I mean, hey, if it's frozen over in Elko and White Pine County, it's a brick bat around Eureka. So, somewhere near the North Pole. Go ahead, Mr. Vice Chairman.
I was just going to make a motion. We got some discussion down here first. I think you got to hear that first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this started out, I agree with Gil's assessment of it, started out as a weather-related request from Elko County, including White Pine, because of the freeze over, and it suddenly grew to Topsy here. My belief is we ought to keep it to the weather-related situation, which was the initial request, and that would be alternative two.
All right, we have alternative one, alternative two thrown out there. Any other discussion down here? Further discussion, Mr. Cavan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really don't have a big personal interest in the situation, so it looks like Elko, White Pine, Humboldt, and now basically Carson City says option one, and since we're dealing with Elko and White Pine and close neighbor Humboldt, that's kind of the direction I'm leaning, is option one, because of the cab input, because I'm not privy on this
There's a
thing.
couple good options here. Anybody discussion? Go ahead.
Yeah, can I get just clarification from Eureka County on which alternative they chose?
It was three.
Okay.
All five waterfowl hunter. Oh. I used to be a waterfowl hunter before I got on the commission. Okay. Hopefully I will be begin soon. That's it. Go ahead, Mr. Burrow.
Thank you for the second time. I also would call to your attention the testimony that tells us that you're shortening the season in other areas, and I'm not sure that that's what they want to do in those areas. It was a cold weather issue, should be remaining as a cold weather issue.
All right, further discussion. Oh, go ahead. I guess we're ready for a motion. You said you had a motion?
I'll make a stab at a motion. I don't have a dog in this fight. It doesn't make any difference to me, but as I recall, the weather's a weather-related problem. So I would, and it is going to shorten the season in those areas, and that's why I didn't want to shorten the season in Lincoln County and go with the option three. So I'm going to make a motion. We go with alternative two, which has Elko and White Pine, which was the original, into one zone, Lincoln and Clark in another one, the rest of the state in another one, and alternative two is presented by the department. And I'm just going to take a stab at it and see if that's what everyone wants to do.
All right, we have a second? Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Does everybody understand the motion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your hand. All right, all opposed? All right, we have 7 in favor. Mr. Macbeth's opposed. Motion passes. We have any further motions? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item.
Commissioner Raine?
Yo.
There's still another
which is
item
the
on
Swan,
the
right?
Swans,
Yeah.
correct.
Item on this agenda item.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to reiterate also that today we're seeking, the commission's direction, but both of these need to go back before the Pacific Flyway for final approval before they can be implemented. The next issue is the Nevada swan hunt area. Currently, the hunt area in Nevada is Pershing, Churchill, and Lyon County, and we're proposing that we make the swan hunt area the entirety of the state with the exception of Elko and White Pine County. And that exception is explained in the support material is after working with Mr. Jeff Mackey from the Ruby Lake Refuge, just in an effort to protect the trumpeter swan that is at the refuge there. Nevada's framework allows us to harvest swans throughout the season or until that point when we harvest 5 trumpeter swans. And so we're trying to make an effort to avoid harvesting those trumpeter swans so we don't have to shut the season down early. That's why we're avoiding that area.
Okay, let's, questions on this? If not, we'll move on to public comment. Public comment on the tundra swan. Seeing no public comment, close public hearing. Back to the commission, ready for motion. Mr. Howell.
I move that we approve the proposed expanded hunting area for tundra swan.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the expanded tundra swan as presented by the department. Everybody understand the motion? All in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Now, let's see, and that was the end of number 21. Let's have a 10-minute break. Come back at about 10:40, and we'll hit number 22.
Maureen, means those are federal issues. Shouldn't we have our DAC get a hold of them?
The voice from above.
Are we gonna